All right. Welcome everybody to the Boxing Podcast, broadcasting to you live from the True North. This is a good friend, Mr. BDA, and I'm glad that everybody could be on board for this one, fellas. In this episode, we've got a fantastic one for you as we delve into a bit of a tricky situation here in the sport we love so much. And I mean, we've touched on this issue before, but it's one of those things that is worth looking into again and again and again and again. In and out. Right? There's a couple of things out there that people love to do, in and out. Well, this is another one that we should be focusing on, in and out. All right, fellas? So we're going to delve into this. We're going to do a deep dive, introspective analysis, really hardcore, open and shut type case. We're going to try to get to the bottom of things is what I'm trying to say. So we're going to give you the dossier, the rundown on this situation. All right? Before we get down to the business, let's get the... Actually, yeah, before we get down to the fun, actually, I should say, my goodness. Listen, there's so much information right now that I got here. I got to get it all together and really explain it slowly and carefully. Otherwise, we're going to miss a lot of things, all right? So before we get down to the fun, let's get the business side of the way, fellas. You know the drill. If you want to donate a couple of shekels our way, you can certainly do so with the Super Chat feature, the Buy Me a Coffee app, link in the description below. Join the Patreon. Bucha just dropped a video on the Patreon. I know we've sort of fallen behind on the Patreon with videos, but make sure to check them out. And there's another way. Oh yeah, you can also join the Patreon, Super Chats, Buy Me a Coffee. And listen, the most important thing is you continue to like and subscribe, right? But it does help with the phone lines. If you want to call in, the phone lines and all the funds that you provide to us do help with the phone lines. Looking at some of the comments here. BDA, Hands Mechanics says, BDA with the brainwashing mind control music. I was just saying, since we're going to be doing sort of a in-depth analysis here of a tricky situation involving PEDs or potentially involving PEDs, I decided to put in a more corporate 2020 Nightline type music, but it all fell apart, just like the intro of this show. It's just, I'm not kidding, man. I have a lot of information that I want to bring out. And let's just listen. This video, this podcast centers on Victor Conte. That's the main subject of the episode. But I want to say this, and I've said it before. I am not accusing Victor Conte of providing PEDs to people right now, or clandestine PEDs that go undetected by VADA or any other testing organization. What I'm saying is he's a liability because, as you're going to see later on, this fella says a couple of things one day and then others something completely different the other, or sometimes just not necessarily completely different, but things that make you say, wait a minute, that's not, that doesn't align with what he said earlier. So that's what we're going to be focusing on. And we're going to be rewatching, because I think a lot of people miss this, snippets of Untold Hall of Shame, which is a Netflix documentary centering around BALCO, which was Victor Conte's company that was used to provide PEDs, and not only that, but mask those PEDs to a bevy of athletes that never tested positive, by the way. The only reason why people know that they took these PEDs is because it later came out during testimony during Victor Conte's and BALCO's trial. And this all came back into public consciousness because of comments that were made not only by Brian Norman Jr., who's going to be fighting Devin Haney, who is a snack fighter, snack being Victor Conte's company, but also because of comments that surfaced about Victor Conte saying he can beat the current testing. But then again, there was another clip floating around of him saying, no, even if I wanted to, I couldn't beat him now. So which one is it? That's what we're going to get to today. Let's give a shout out to everybody in the chat. I'm talking about Adam, Bray, Rapax Trunking Company. Shout out to Rapax Trunking Company, 10-4. Knockout Ned, Hard Recoil. Bray already said him. Hard Recoil, Steph K. That's Official Scorecard Boxing. Shout out to him. Never Sobers, Skull Kid, Handsome Mechanic, Sergeant, Two Matador, Ralph Unreal, Knockout Ned, Frankie Sands. Shout out to him. Shout out to the Night Murph. Rolling around at night over there. He's a night owl. He's a night. I'm talking night as in a warrior. Roland Curtis, shout out to him. Ceylon, and many more people to come. Dwayne Styles, shout out to him. And many more people to come, I'm sure. Don't forget to hit the like, fellas. Hit the like. Guns Box 12. I don't know if that's Gonzalo. And so that's what we got here. So we're going to start off with the thing that set this whole malarkey off again as it pertains to Victor Conte. And for those of you that don't know who Victor Conte is, just to give you the quick rundown, in the early 2000s, he had a company, I think it was the late 90s too. He had a company called BALCO. And I think Snack, the difference between Snack and BALCO was, I think Snack was the protocol or one of the protocols that he provided, something like that. But BALCO was the Bay Area, I don't know, we're going to see later on in the documentary. But him and a couple of other guys got together and they started providing athletes with PEDs. And they were pretty good at it. And these PEDs went undetected. And people like Marion Jones, some other baseball players that I forget about, that boxers such as Sugar Shane Mosley, they were provided with these PEDs, and it really helped with their performance. These guys, these athletes just couldn't stop winning. Long story short, there was a guy at the IRS who wanted to make a name for himself, so he went after Conte. Initially, more than anything, it was for tax fraud, tax evasion, but yeah, they wanted to get him too on the drug distribution. Because for them, for the federal government, some of these things are illegal, so hey, these are drugs. So when people hear the word drug, they equate it with hardcore narcotics, cocaine, heroin, the whole shebang. So he wanted to go, it was Jeff Nowitzki, I believe is the guy's name. He's going to appear in the documentary. So he goes after Conte, hits him with a bunch of charges, and we're going to see what happened later on. But Conte did end up serving time. How much time did he serve? According to what I read, 4 months of incarceration plus 4 months of confinement in one of those, what do they call them? Runaway? No, what do they call them? The homes? Mid-house or whatever they call it. You know, when they release you, but you still got to report to that home. You can't live whatever you want. You got to live there. If you do go to work, you got to go back to the house. You got to check in, that type of stuff. So I think in total, he must have done about 8 months, including, like I said, the 4 months that he did in a low security, a minimum security prison. So then he gets out, and wouldn't you know it, he goes back with boxing. No other sport has him, according to Dana White. And I don't know what other people have to say, but it's quite telling that he isn't part of any other sport, as far as I know. If somebody does know or has information that proves otherwise, please let me know. But he gets into it with boxing. Boxing, the red light district of sports. He himself, Conte, has said in the past that the testing in boxing is a joke. So you got a guy notorious for developing hardcore PEDs that went undetected, even by all these high-level organizations doing Olympic testing. He got away with it, and now he comes into the red light district of boxing, which he knows has horrible testing procedures, but now we're supposed to trust him because he says, I've changed my ways. The argument I'm making is, I don't know if he's still supplying PEDs. I can't accuse him of that because I have no proof. I can't prove it. But there's evidence suggesting that if you look at this from a pragmatic stance, first of all, he's a liability. Does boxing gain more having him in the sport than actually getting rid of him? He would probably argue that, yeah, because I'm helping the sport. I'm helping combat cheaters. But as we're going to see later on, he's got an association with VADA, the organization that conducts some of the testing. Now, we're going to get into that too later on. VADA doesn't actually conduct that testing. They have a list of criteria that they then send to another lab, an accredited lab. They run the tests based on what VADA, to VADA specifications. And then VADA, if they catch a guy or an athlete dirty, they inform all parties involved, such as the commissions, the fighters, the representatives, etc., and they leave it up to them to decide. But then we also enter into a little bit of a controversy here because Conte has given different versions of his involvement with VADA. VADA as well has said that they got no involvement with Conte. So it's difficult to ascertain what the truth is, but we're going to try to get to it. And so again, my argument is that Victor Conte should not be in the sport of boxing. He should not be giving guys like Devin Haney, Virgil Ortiz, Bam Rodriguez, Terrence Crawford, and others, supplying them with this thing. Because again, Victor Conte, people look at his company and they go, oh, doesn't he sell ZMA? The zinc, magnesium, whatever, blend, and a bunch of other supplements. When he's working with fighters and when these guys pay him big bucks, what he does for them is he runs the blood work to see what they got in the system, what they're lacking, what they need, and then he builds a protocol around that. That's why they're paying him the big bucks. They're not paying him big bucks for him to give him zinc and magnesium, all right? And then there's other things like, well, what else does his premium package offer? If you're paying him, say, 100 grand, what does that 100 grand cover? He's just taking care of you, feeding you chicken soup if you get a cold? No, there's likely other things that he does. If indeed he's associated with VADA, that would give him a big plus, a leg up. So without further prevarication here, let's get into some of the stuff that I've got. But before we do so, shout out to SkullKid25 for his contribution with the super chat. He says, hold on a second, what's he saying? Let me put it up on the big screen here. He says, BDA, did you watch the Exodus files on Shakur Stevenson? Yes, I did. That was another one. That was another good documentary from the Exodus files. I couldn't help but laugh when I rewatched the just to see exactly what Shakur Stevenson had said in the build-up to the Cepeda fight. I'm gonna whoop him, he said. I'm gonna put a beating on him. You watch, I'm gonna put a beating on him. And he's the one that ended up getting hurt in the fight. He's the only guy that ended up getting hurt. So again, I don't understand. Look, I already learned my lesson with the Harturnonian fight. When he says he's gonna beat somebody up, it means he's gonna decision them. Shakur Stevenson at the high level is not beating anybody up. In fact, he probably hurt his hands more against Cepeda than any type of damage he did to William Cepeda, El Camarón. So that was actually quite a good documentary right there. I don't think, by the way, well, he says, the guy in the documentary says Shakur Stevenson is the next Haney. I think he's a little bit better than Haney, but not by that much. And certainly not the generational talent that the media and certain fanatics made him out to be. Anyway, let me show you what kickstarted this whole thing, because I don't know if you guys saw the news, but Brian Norman's going to be fighting Devin Haney, who's a snack fighter. Victor Conte has repeatedly referred to Devin Haney as my guy, Devin Haney. So he really he's taking a liking to Haney, and I think it goes perhaps it goes above just or beyond the fact that Haney pays him for his services. So Haney's fighting Brian Norman Jr. Dangerous fight. The Sheik offered to pay for testing 8 weeks before, starting 8 weeks before the actual fight, which apparently is part of standard VADA protocol. So then Bill Haney, the master of illusions, the master of smoke and mirrors, the guy who allegedly pays YouTubers to spread his information, the information that he wants to be spread, he started the mind games again. And he said, hey, isn't it suspicious that Brian Norman, that we're only doing testing 8 weeks, starting 8 weeks before the fight? We want more. We want to start it now. So at first, the Normans were ambivalent, but then eventually they said, yeah, let's do it. And then Devin Haney tweeted out, do as you're told, really trying to provoke the Normans. But then Brian Norman was on the Sean Porter podcast, Brian Norman Jr., that is, and he had this to say. Let me play it to you here, or for you, rather.
Hey, yo, I'm going to ask you this, and then we'll probably let you go after this. Did you see that I had mentioned that I don't think this fight was going to happen? I thought that Haney would figure out a way to get out of this fight. Then this thing pops up with him talking about the drug testing, and it needs to happen ASAP. Number one, did you see that I had mentioned that this fight would get called off by Haney? And with that being said, were you surprised when you saw the things that came out about the drug testing?
No, I wasn't surprised at all, but like I said, I was cool with all of that. Dude was just he was really trying to find a way out this fight. I don't know if you seen me on the Box Voice when I was on with Bill Haney. But
that's the other thing. A lot of people started positing the same theory that, hey, this sounds like Bill and Devin Haney trying to get out of the fight. Maybe it was a bluff. They thought the Normans were going to say, no, we do the testing that we're required to do, not what you require us to do. But eventually they ended up saying, yeah, whatever. So we'll see if indeed in the next couple of weeks, we'll see if the Haney start coming up with other types of stuff. Maybe they find, maybe they have objections to over certain other things, size of the ring, the gloves. You just never know. We got to keep an eye on them.
Like, he trying to find a way about this thing.
Yeah.
Y'all ain't going nowhere.
Uh-oh.
It's not gonna happen. We doing this thing come November, Charlotte. Yeah. So we said, cool. They want to know our whereabouts whenever I'm outside the country, whatever, so I can clean my system, as the fans say. And we did all of that. So no, everything's still fine and steady. We ain't got to worry about none of that.
Does that mean, because I think Devin tweeted something about it, does that mean testing has started now, or is it still going to start on August 1st, Brian?
So, I mean, we submitted everything. We did this and we did that. We told them our schedule. We all know VADA is what they say, unpredictable. They show up at different times and things like that. So that's all up on them. We did everything. So that's all up on VADA and what they got going on. And speaking of, Victor Conte with the VADA stuff, right?
Yes.
All right, so here's where we get into it with Victor Conte.
We were talking about it.
Talk about
Devin Haney with the Victor Conte, right?
Yeah. That's all that need to be said about that.
So how is it any other testing organization we could somehow get into? Because I don't know if I can even trust them.
Right.
That's how I feel about it.
Right.
They click tight, but they go way back since kindergarten. I don't know I can trust y'all like that. You feel
Ryan,
me?
I once asked, I mentioned this Friday when we had the live. I once asked Victor, I said, do you know how to beat the VADA test since you
And
helped,
he said yes.
Yes, he did.
All right, now for reference to that, here's the interview in question where Zittel asked Victor Conte about that. Let's take a gander at that.
Victor, I've spoken to some championship fighters you work, and they said, off the record, I've talked with Victor, and he says, we do all we can to help VADA make the test stringent, especially, in helping form it. But he said, Victor at the same time did admit he knows how to beat these tests as good as they are. What percentage of championship level notable fighters, what kind of estimate do you think are beating the system, are getting past VADA, WADA, USADA, any of them?
Well, first of all, let me say that USADA testing is not available to boxing.
Right.
Okay. And the reason is because they have stated publicly that unless they control the testing, including the adjudication 100%, they don't want any boxers. So what I'm telling you is at the moment, the only game in town with any credibility is VADA.
So keep that in mind. There is no other credible organization doing any testing. USADA doesn't want into the game. So it's only VADA. And he has an association with VADA. To what extent? That's what we're going to try to get to here. All right? He claims he has none, or very little. Just, tangential, or whatever they call it.
Mm-hmm.
So it is what it is. I mean, boxers can decide to be in or not. And VADA is much smarter, and the people they have, the scientific people advising them, have explained that if it's prohibited at all, it enhances performance and likely is dangerous. Therefore, the policy is all prohibited substances tested for at all times. And that's what VADA does.
So what a neat coincidence, right? So the company that he's always advocating for is the only game in town. So they got a monopoly on the whole thing. Maybe monopoly is not the correct term, right? Or the exact term. Because it doesn't necessarily mean that they drove everybody out. But I mean, hey, listen, it's the only one. So Norman was rightfully asking, is there any other, can we go with any organization here? And apparently Conte is saying no.
And that's more effective than what USADA does, or more effective. WADA doesn't even test, they just accredit the laboratories, and they might, on a target basis, if they have human intelligence, might do a couple hundred tests a year, but not many. So is it possible to circumvent? Yeah, it is. But the same people that know how to circumvent, like myself, are the same ones that know how to catch it.
Did you catch that? So because he sort of went out there, the sound sort of screws up there near the end. But check that out again.
Tests a year, but not many. So is it possible to circumvent? Yeah, it is. But the same people that know how to circumvent, like myself, are the same ones that know how to catch it.
The same, so he says, is it possible to circumvent? Yes. But the same people who knows how to circumvent it are the same ones, like me, he says, who can catch it. But why is he, so when he says he can catch something, how's he catching it? He doesn't work for VADA. He claims on and off again that he has no association with VADA, that he doesn't work with them. But now he's saying, I know how to catch him. How are you going to catch him? Are you receiving the blood samples and urine samples from the fighters that VADA collects? See how that doesn't, see how when you start listening to what this guy says, the questions remain unanswered. Or his comments and statements raise more questions than answers is what I'm trying to get to. Let's just re-listen to that again.
Circumvent? Yeah, it is. If they have human intelligence, might do a couple hundred tests a year, but not many. So is it possible to circumvent? Yeah, it is. But the same people that know how to circumvent, like myself, are the same ones that know how to catch it.
Same people who know how to circumvent it are the same ones like me who know how to catch it. How are you catching them, Victor? Are you working for VADA? Are they giving you information? That's what I'd like to know. Maybe it's standard, right? Maybe they both get the same results and the same levels. Maybe, for example, maybe Norman and Haney. I don't know how it works. Somebody could inform me. Maybe Haney gets the results from the Norman camp, whether it's negative or positive, whatever. It just shows you all the levels, and maybe vice versa. I sort of doubt, for some reason, that they would give an opponent. That VADA would give the opponent a list of, hey, this guy's got this level of minerals in his blood or whatever. Because maybe, you never know, maybe the opponent could use it to his benefit. I don't know. But so what I'm trying to get is, how does Conte know how to catch people? And if he knows how to catch them, so what difference does it make? You're not working for VADA. You're not a consultant to VADA, are you? That's what he keeps saying. He says, he said that he only had, his involvement with VADA was a meeting and a phone call. Okay? That's what he claims. So let's get to it. So don't forget to hit the like, fellas. Hit the like, hit the like, hit the like. Really helps us out, all right? And subscribe if you've yet to do so. This is an article from November, I believe. And it was in the build-up to Andrade versus Benavides. And you shall recall that Conte was working with Andrade in the build-up to that fight. So let me just show you here what I get. Hold on a second. What are people in the chat saying? All right, we're going to get to that. So here we go. So this is from ESPN. Andrade's not-so-secret edge versus Benavides. Victor Conte. And then you got Victor Conte there. And what he had to say was this. I'm just trying to put it up there so you guys can read along with me. To ensure he's in the best possible shape for his first pay-per-view main event, Andrade conducted a 7-week training camp at SnackSystem.Inc., a facility in California's Bay Area run by Victor Conte, one of the most notorious figures in sports. It was Conte who sponsored Andrade and Saunders for VADA testing ahead of their failed middleweight title fight at a cost of approximately $30,000. And Andrade has entrusted Conte once again to help him prepare for a long-awaited fight. Okay. The move doesn't come without baggage, of course. Conte was accused of peddling. Okay, we know that. Hold on a second. Let me just. Okay, so this is what Conte has to say. In terms of his past crimes, I made that decision to go down the slippery slope. It was a mistake. I damaged a lot of people, especially my family. But the knowledge that I gained thereafter, and I was able to develop a relationship with VADA, Dr. Margaret Goodman, and the VADA Vice President, Dr. Flip Hamansky, and then assist them in any way that I could in developing testing protocol for VADA. And now that's the most stringent testing program in all of boxing. Let's read that again. I developed a relationship with VADA founder Dr. Margaret Goodman and VADA Vice President Dr. Flip Hamansky, and then assist them in any way that I could, then in brackets, developing testing protocol for VADA. So he helped develop the testing protocol. And again, this is a guy whose specialty was developing PEDs that went undetected by the testing agencies. So now he comes to boxing, like I said, the red light district of the sport, or the sporting world, with lax PED testing, and he comes in and he finds a gold mine. It's an oasis. Look at the testing. Hey, if a guy like him who knows how to circumvent all the testing, he would probably do well. But he can't just go in there into a sport that's dirty and filled with holes without attracting attention. So what he does is, he aligns himself with VADA, the Voluntary Anti-Doping Association. And he says, let me help you to show you that I am a changed man. But how do we know he's a changed man? That's what I'm saying. That's why I keep stating over and over that he's a liability. Yeah, he did his time. If he wants to sell zinc and magnesium and other supplements to civilians, citizens, non-athletes, fine, I'll buy it. But him working with athletes, especially in a combat sport, highly dangerous, that's when I go, okay, there's no need for you to be involved in this. There's no need for you to be involved in sports anymore. But as we're going to see, things get a little bit more complicated when you delve into the psychology of Victor Conte. So, and now people say, well, okay, but I mean, he's able to catch these people, right? I mean, maybe he's truly reformed and he wants to change how PED testing and the outlook on all that occurs. Well, let me just show you a little something here. This is an article from way back in the day, the early 2000s. And just to lay the groundwork about what PEDs entail, okay? This is from 2003, at about the time where Conte was still operating. Experts warn of undetectable drugs. Okay, this is from the Age.com Australia. And what it says is that PED designers are always one step ahead from the testing agencies. Okay, let me just find out if I can find a specific quote here. Okay, so this is the interesting part here that I wanted to get to. Okay, there is actually an infinite number of variations just by fiddling with a branch of molecules. By changing one or two, you get a different drug, Larkin said. That's Dr. Peter Larkin, spokesman for the Australian College of Sports Physicians. So that's how it works for the most part. You get this high-level biochemists. They fiddle, as it says here, with a branch of molecules, and you get yourself a whole different drug. Okay, some of the changes make for a stronger steroid, some for a weaker one, and the challenge for the chemist is to put together one that works well. Okay, so that's one quote that we got there. That's how they do it. So here's from another article from Hialio.com. Okay, use of performance-enhancing drugs challenges experts, remains a moving target. So they're speaking with another expert here. I'm gonna try to find out who exactly he is. Akus, what is this guy? Richard J. Akus, MD, PhD. Okay. He says, unfortunately, steroid use is a complex problem for which there is no easy solution. For instance, physicians and researchers often find themselves operating in the dark, with patients using multiple drugs at different doses in hopes of seeing a greater benefit or eluding detection. Moreover, there is no concrete way to identify those who will be affected most by the significant physical and psychological harms associated with steroids, including stroke, heart attacks, and liver damage. Okay. Adding that these drugs are easily obtainable and the problem grows exponentially. Here's finally one where they talk about how they're always the testers are always one step behind. Hold on a second. There we go. Keeping pace with determined dopers is a difficult task, according to Anawalt, but researchers are making progress. Armed with new detection methods, officials are now able to identify those using on certain performance-enhancing substances with more accuracy. Certainly, there are much better assays for compounds that are being used by athletes, and they're used much more commonly, he said, highlighting the fact that significant strides... Okay, so they're saying that, yeah, it's getting better. But check this out. Many challenges, however, still remain, according to AUKUS. For instance, deletion of the UGT2B17 whatever, which is common in Asians, lowers the testosterone to epitestosterone ratio and may allow people with this deletion to escape detection when doping. So people who have certain genetics can actually benefit or actually have a leg up when it comes to doping. However, the potential for false positives also exists, with one study from the journal suggesting that a person may... Okay, we get that. Hold on a second. Looking for the next part here. When an athlete gets tested, whether it's their hematocrit to detect, okay, a bunch of molecules, right, or proteins, whatever, testosterone to epitestosterone ratio to detect synthetic androgens, those values are recorded, and deviations over time trigger a second, more sophisticated test. Athletes and chemists are always experimenting. We always have to stay one step ahead. So these people, these biochemists who are working in creating PEDs, that's what they do. They're changing molecules, find out what the best result is. Once they get those results, they get back on the lab and they start working on another and another and another, so that they always have a chain of production in place. And these people who are doing the testing, they have to find these substances out in the first place. By the time they discover one, these guys are already switching to the other, the PED guys. So you can start seeing, I'm trying to paint a picture here of how complicated this can turn into. And how easily it could still be done, especially in boxing, where some people aren't even signed up with VADA. So Victor Conte, the guy who's an expert at this, comes into this sport, this loosely regulated sport, and says, I'm a changed man. Believe me. Again, my argument is he's a liability, and it's a risk to have this guy working with boxers. And more people are starting to speak out on this. So how do you, but again, the question then becomes, how do we prove that this guy is still doing something? nefarious. It's very difficult. It's a tricky situation. Grievous says contemporary. Contemporary, I get it. Warway says, I remember Conte said he consulted for VADA in creating their testing procedures or something like that. Isaac Bermuda says, Conte is the Emperor Palpatine of boxing. Bray says the Haneys have weaponized drug testing. Some rando says, Victor Conte knows how to beat the test. Barry Nuvola says, not sure of that either, buddy, but isn't it interesting that the Euros, Asians, South Americans, etc. don't get popped, but folks in the US do? Joker says, BDA needs to make a second Renaissance comeback. Yeah, okay, we're working on it, man. Again, I'm trying to do I'm juggling a whole bunch of things here at the same time. I really want to do a second Renaissance, believe me. We might be getting one this week. I don't know, no promises. Casamigos Kyle says, will Haney be able to afford snack after his harlot wife takes all his money? Come on. Come on, man. What is this?
Yo, Mr. BD, I want to add a point here.
Oh, Vessel. What's up, man?
Have you seen the Icarus documentary?
No,
Pretty sure you
have
have, right?
No, I don't think I have.
So the reason the reason why that became a huge thing, with the doping in the Russian government, right, in the Russian Federation for the Olympics, right, is because they actually had someone. They knew something shady was going on, but they couldn't figure out what shady thing was happening, right? They're like, there's a way they're circumventing the test. Turns out they had someone in the inside who knew the procedures to it.
Well.
Huh, that sounds interesting.
Familiar. And yeah, it sounds familiar, sounds interesting. Highly compelling, if you
And
ask
the only
me.
way they got caught is because someone snitched. That's the only way they got caught. They didn't get caught actually with the results.
Very,
They got
very
caught because
interesting.
someone snitched.
Well, I mean, a couple of snack-related fighters have tested positive. Not in a while, though, interestingly enough. But, like, for example, Francisco Vargas tested positive for clenbuterol, the same thing that Canelo did. And Canelo was able to prove his innocence via hair follicle test. He was able to prove contamination. Now, the question that always gets asked by people who are unaware of this is, well, if he was cleared, why was he suspended? Strict liability means they catch you with something, whether it was intentional or not, you still have to suffer some sort of consequence. But for all intents and purposes, Canelo proved that he didn't cheat. I forget exactly what happened with Francisco Vargas. But Victor Conte and Margaret Goodman, one of those two people, said in relation to
Vargas was for sure on it, though.
But hold on.
Vargas
But one
was
of the
for sure
things,
on it.
one of the things that one of these people said, I think it was Conte. I don't know if it was Conte or Margaret Goodman. They said not all positive tests are equal. So there's nuance involved, right? But don't tell that to boxing people who hate nuance and context. So I'm just trying to get to the bottom of this by stating that, hey, yeah, man, maybe sometimes this VADA is not infallible, right? Then check this out. Then I've got this tweet here from Victor Conte. We all know that past every test doesn't mean much. Marion Jones passed 160 tests and Lance Armstrong passed 250. In my opinion, many positive drug tests have been covered up in exchange for financial gain. So he's saying these organizations are corrupt. And wouldn't you know it, there's one organization, the only game in town apparently, that he's always advocating for. The master cheater continually advocates for VADA, and he says not only are these tests not infallible, but also that they can be bought and paid for. The results can be bought and paid for. Remember that people were saying that about the Ryan Garcia test? And people were saying, oh, that's a conspiracy theory. Look, again, these things that we're pointing out don't prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that Victor Conte is involved in this. But my argument, Vessel, continually has been, why take a risk? Why allow this guy to continue to work with boxers? Especially, boxers, it's a dangerous sport. If a guy gets caught using a PED and he's got unlimited or near unlimited stamina, strength, recovery, all of which could maybe help improve his speed, his power, and all that. Why take a risk with a guy like Conte? What does boxing gain? What do we gain more? Do we gain more by keeping him in the sport, or do we lose more by kicking him to the curb? I think we gain more by kicking him to the curb, because the risk for him to be involved here is too much. Now, there's a couple of other tweets here that raise a lot of questions. Hold on a second. Conte says VADA forces cheaters. Okay, yeah. So Man, because there's a lot of information here that I have, and I'm trying to get through all of it in order, because I don't know in which order to present it in. So let's go with another tweet here from Conte, straight from the horse's mouth. Conte says somebody was calling him out on the testing. Actually, you know what? No, that one needs contest. So let me play it, show it later. So initially he said that they don't mean much, right? The tests. Okay, so we showed that quote earlier when Jean Zidl was talking to Conte, and Conte said that I can beat the test. Here's another tweet where he admits it. Hold on a sec. Time for boxing to get woke. Even the most stringent VADA testing can be circumvented by smart cheaters. Be aware that Memo Heredia is in camp with Benavides against my guy, Caleb Plant. Well, he didn't say my guy, but against Caleb Plant on March 25th. Substances like IGF-1, LR3 are powerful and undetectable. So, again, for context, this is when Caleb Plant, the guy that was working with Conte, was going to be fighting David Benavides, who had employed Memo Heredia, who is Victor Conte's arch enemy. Because, if I remember correctly... cheater. Another known cheater, yeah. That's the thing. Memo Heredia worked with Conte, and then he threw Conte under the bus for immunity during the whole BALCO trial. So Victor and Conte...
Bro, it's literally Mario and Luigi. Like, Wario and Luigi. It's like that level of comic.
Exactly.
Cartoony laughter, evilness.
Right. So he's saying that all of a sudden he's worried that the tests are undetectable, that these substances can be undetected, right? But this really makes no sense because, again, let me show you the full thing with context of the previous one that I want to show you. He said, message to boxing, for boxing. Marion Jones passed 160 tests, Lance Armstrong passed 250. They both later admitted drugs. Smart people can pass drug tests, he said. So then somebody said, okay, so then what's the point of the drug testing? So Conte replied by saying, VADA testing is stringent and very much needed, especially in combat sports. Even those smart enough to fly under the radar with a few substances must use significantly reduced dosages of endogenous hormones. So essentially, first he goes, hey, it can be passed. So then when this guy pressed him, saying, okay, so if it can be passed, what's the point of the testing? He goes, oh, well, the VADA really is needed because even when these guys get away with it with certain drugs, they have to lower the dosage. But then and this was, again, check the date, February 11th. Then when he learned, or thereabouts, when he learned that Memo was going to be involved with Benavides, who was going to fight his guy, Victor Caleb Plant, he said, be aware of Memo Heredia. But in other words, why be aware of Memo Heredia? He's in the same vote as, Conte is in the same vote as Heredia. So if we're going to be aware, or if we have to beware of Memo Heredia, then we should also beware of Victor Conte, shouldn't we? Vessel?
Bro, I'm telling you, this is cartoony level villainy. It's literally like what's that saying? Calling the kettle calling the pot black or something like that?
Pot calling the kettle black, yeah.
Well, yeah, it doesn't matter, man. At this point, it's just insane. Why are we allowing Conte here? He's the only person that's been allowed to go back to sports after knowing he's a cheater, like a PD. No other sport takes him, right? He can't go into other sports.
Exactly. And then he said that quote where he goes, well, guys like me know how to catch him, but you're not working for VADA, so how are you going to catch anybody? You're a private guy. You're privately working with fighters on a fighter by fighter basis. You're not with the organization running the tests, are you? Because he keeps saying he doesn't work with them, even though I just showed you the quote earlier where he says, I helped the VADA set up protocol. So he knows the protocol. He knows how to catch these guys. He knows all about the dosages, but he's saying, hey, watch out for Memo Heredia. Well, what about you? You're in the same boat as him. The only difference between Conte and Heredia is that Conte claims to be a changed man and that he's got some association with VADA. That's it. Memo Heredia also uses VADA. I mean, his fighters undergo VADA testing. So why is Victor Conte so scared of it? Because then again...
If anything, Conte makes me more suspicious because you say he has association with VADA.
Exactly.
Why should he be able to have association with it? Shouldn't there be like a barrier between, his fighters, what he's providing for them, and then VADA?
See, you get
VADA shouldn't be talking to anybody. It should be a complete neutral party.
See, Vessel, you get it. You get it. If this guy, it's in a lot of ways, yeah, it's worse that he's working with with VADA. So that makes him worse than Memo Heredia because Memo Heredia, hey, he's doing his own thing. He may be cheating, he may be not. But this dude, also a cheater, working with the organization that conducts it, he helped set their protocol, and then he admits he knows how to beat him. But then, and that's the other thing. Then there's another interview with Conte where he says, "No, I can't beat the test. It's not doable." But now I just showed you two sources where he said, "Yeah, it's doable." So which one is it? And again, why are people? Why is boxing taking the risk of having this guy in the sport when he can't even keep his own story straight? It's unbelievable.
Boxing, it's so crazy how such a big and popular sport with so much money can be such a shit show.
It really is. It really is. And by the way, Haney, who's renowned for ballooning up 25 pounds and then losing losing 25 pounds and then ballooning up 25 pounds in a 36-hour period. Fighting at 135 and then weighing in at 161 or above that on fight nights. That's very difficult to do. And in that Exodus documentary, the second part that they released a couple of weeks ago, Victor Conte talks about how Billy Joe Saunders does that. He goes, that's highly suspicious. That's only doable with PEDs. But then his guy, Devin Haney, is doing it. So are we supposed to believe that a little magnesium and zinc is all you need to lose 25 pounds in a week and then regain it in a 36-hour period?
No, it's insane. I want people to remember that during the Icarus podcast, or the documentary, sorry, not a podcast. It's 2010, 2014. That's 4 years of testing, and over 135 different Russian athletes were tested, and none of them were caught, but they were all cheating. Isn't that crazy?
That's the thing. Listen, I hear that about, like, for example, Terence Crawford and any other fighter, right? But we'll just use Terence Crawford as an example. I've heard people say, nah, he's not cheating. And you go, why? He's just old school. He trains very hard. He's a purist. I go, how do you know that? I mean, listen, you could have said, if I would have been suspicious of Marion Jones or Sugar Shane Mosley back in the 2000s, people could have said use that as the same defense. Now, there's no way they're cheating. Why not? Because they train. Look at how hard they train. They don't need to cheat. Which, in fact, actually, using PEDs, in a way, would actually motivate you to train harder. Because you don't just take the PEDs and then lounge around eating cheeseburgers and enjoying the benefits. You got to train hard. And a lot of these guys, if they see that they're getting benefits of it, it's only going to motivate them to train even harder. So when people do that and they say, no, there's no way this guy is on it. And first of all, I'm not even casting aspersions on Crawford necessarily, but here's the other thing. If he were being given things by Conte, PEDs, right? How would Crawford know? I suppose you could say, maybe he would start noticing, whoa, I'm way faster, I'm recovering faster than I ever did. But then why would an athlete tell himself, hey, maybe this guy's giving PEDs? Why would a fighter admit that to himself? Most athletes and competitors would rather believe that they are these hardcore beasts and monsters that can just do this because that's what they are, right? They're great. And Crawford's the guy that continuously says he's great. You got guys like Usyk, Bivol, when they get asked, who's the best, or Canelo, who's the best pound for pound? Buddy, don't ask me that. I let the people decide. Crawford's one of the only guys, him, Shakur Stevenson, Clarissa Shields, all part of the same gang, that can't stop talking about their greatness. That type of ego, don't you think that might lead to taking PEDs? Even if or being giving things, even if by being unaware. Because if I'm Victor Conte, I would give these guys things without telling them so that they can have plausible deniability. But here's the kicker, Vessel. Here's the kicker. All these athletes, like Crawford, like Haney, Jesse Bam Rodriguez, Virgil Ortiz, Demetrius Andrade, if he ever comes back with and unites with Snack, they should really think carefully about what they're doing. Because again, Marion Jones and all these other athletes that were using Conte, they never tested positive. But it all came out that they had indeed taken PEDs. And in the case of Marion Jones, she got all her titles and medals taken away. So it could retroactively end up hurting your careers. That's what these guys don't get. So that's why they should cut this association with Conte pronto. So should boxing. Because he's a liability. But whenever, and that's the other thing, Vessel, I was looking around what people were saying on Twitter. What about Canelo? What about why do people keep bringing up Crawford and Haney? Why not Jesse Bam Rodriguez or Virgil Ortiz? Okay, so you're admitting that there's something afoot here. You're admitting that there's something nefarious going on with Snack. Okay, yeah, all those guys, everybody that's associated with Snack. Now what?
Wait.
I want
to put something here.
Sure.
Do you remember Virgil a couple years ago had to stop training because he was overtraining to the point where he had I forgot the name of it, rhambosis, I think it's when
Right.
when you can't clean blood properly, right? Your kidney can't clean blood properly. Anyway, he ended up having that because of overtraining. At the time he was starting with snack, he had barely been on snack. So what led to his overtraining? Why was he overtraining out of nowhere?
Exactly. That's a good point. That's a good point. Some people say, well, it's because he was having difficulty making weight. I don't know. I'm not an expert, but you raise a good point there.
No. Because when you get that, the name of it, Rambo's, I think it's called. It's because you overtrain. It's not because of difficulty making weight. It's because you're literally breaking down the muscle so much that it starts going into your bloodstream.
Sylvester Stallone had that, right? Rambo's. That's what made him a badass.
I think so.
Right. By the way, shout out to Baron.
I've known of other athletes who has that too, and they usually do that because at the time they're on PEDs. I'm not saying Berger was on PEDs, but you know.
Well, I mean, I don't know if they're on it or not.
Rhabdo, there you go.
It would really let assuage my fears for these guys if they actually just cut their ties with snack. But again, people want to make it about, well, why mention this? Why talk about this? Victor Conte did his time. Okay, yeah, he did his time, but he's a liability. Again, I'm not saying he can't earn his bread by giving people supplements, everyday people like us and all that. But when you're dealing with athletes who are competing right now, that's where
Earl Stevens made a good point. Lance Armstrong had that, a known PD user too. He had rhabdosis twice during his career.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
I'm telling you, man. There's only so many coincidences you can make before starting to think maybe there is actually a larger narrative to this,
I mean, all I'm saying is, why take a risk? That's what I've been saying for the past months.
I would. Look, if I was in the place of a professional boxer, I would hire Victor Conte.
Mm-hmm.
I would. Because at the end of the day, I know I get the good stuff. And then on top of that, I know that if I lose, I can always, hey, Victor, go check out this guy's test. Let's see if he cheated.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying is maybe the platinum
Erase the loss
package,
from me, Like
maybe-
Haney.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe that's part of the platinum package with Conte. He doesn't just do the blood work and everything, but maybe he has an inside line with VADA. And he knows how to work things from the inside out. Like that guy that you said. By the way, if you could find the name of that whistleblower or whatever that ended up crumbling the whole PED scandal, that'd be great.
Yeah,
but
I have it here.
Yeah, it's not super important right now, but just for posterity later on.
His name is Isak Rodonchikov.
Okay, that's a long ass name right there. Listen, could you read a couple of
Russian guy?
Give me a minute here. I gotta go to the latrines because I've been drinking tea, non-caffeinated tea, just for your information. But I gotta take a break for latrines. If you, I don't know if you want to read
snack tea.
if you want to read the comments or if you want to talk, I don't know. But I'll be right back.
I'm just gonna rap. I'm gonna rap for the next minute.
All right, whatever.
Okay, Al says here, BDA trying his hardest to expose snack after bomb. Yeah, I'm school this boy. Sad to see it. That's not true. That's not true. Yeah, Lance Armstrong was on PEDs. Yes, he was. Just go look into it. There's a whole documentary about it. Pretty good documentary too. I feel bad for the guy though. He did have cancer. So, Shawana Rain just subscribed. Thank you for subscribing, Shawana. Do you guys think that's a real like black woman or is it just a guy with a funny name? Yeah, I also wish Jimmy was here. Jimmy has way more knowledge than me or probably UDA on this. What else do we have? It was overtraining. I take these everyday vitamins.
What are you talking about now?
Man, those everyday vitamins don't really do much. It's better to just take things as one,
You piss a lot
just
of it
every
away,
component
I think.
by itself.
Yeah, I think you piss a lot of it. I think you piss a lot of it away. There's this the other thing that there's these other vitamins though that they're coated with a layer of fat. I forget what it's called. I haven't taken them in a while, but that apparently that layer of fat allows you to absorb more of the vitamins. I'm gonna try to find the name later. All right, hold on a second.
I think I know what you're talking about exactly. I have those for magnesium. Because I have to take magnesium. I have a problem.
Let me read a couple of super chat. Excuse me, a couple of comments here. Earl Stevens says BDA went to take his PED shot. Man, these people know it all, man.
Mm-hmm.
I can't hide anything from them. LL says BDA is trying his hardest to expose Snack after Bam schooled his boy. My boy? What, Cafu was my boy? And see, LL is
Yeah, that's
advocating...
what I was like. I
LL
wasn't
is
sure about that. I was like, were you really big on Cafu, like Tell kinds, I guess?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was like tell kinds of for Cafu. Now, Double L is advocating for cheating, and I always told his cousins when they were growing up, I said LL doesn't have the makings of a varsity athlete. He advocates for cheating, not living the straight life. Shauna Rain, shout out to Shauna Rain, says, hold on, real quick. First time here, fellas, and heard. What? First time here, fellas, and heard fellas. All right. And I seen Bill Haney on Showbiz the Adult on YouTube channel saying how Victor Conte helped them pass snack testing. What? You must have misheard. I don't think Bill Haney's stupid enough to say that. Unless he was high.
Wait, I'm gonna write that down and I'm gonna look that up later.
Yeah, all right. Please do that for us, Vessel. Please do that for us. But okay, listen. I'm gonna really get it because I've told you. Listen, again, the argument here is Victor Conte was an expert at creating masked PDs. Then he comes into the red light district of boxing, where he himself has said, and he knows, obviously, that boxing testing for PDs is full of holes. It's highly unreliable. So it's probably like an oasis for him, saying, oh, look at all these fruits and riches that I can make off of this sport. Then he aligns himself with the organization that he continuously pushes is the only game in town for that. That's a great cover right there. If I were a cynic, that's how I would look at it. Highly suspicious. Then he says, well, you can't beat the testing. Then he changes his tune and says, yeah, you can beat it. Then he's afraid that Memo Heredia, his old partner in crime, is involved in the sport. But his fighters are undergoing the same testing that Conte's fighters do with VADA. So why is Conte afraid of it? In other words, if you want to kick Memo Heredia out of there, or at least you want people looking into him, then the same has to apply to him, because there's no... What Conte did earns him the right to be watched, and I argue, kicked off the sport forever. He shouldn't be part of the sport of boxing. Conte's like, hey, this guy provided mass PDs. He's in a sport now that he himself has admitted has lax PD testing. He says multiple times he can circumvent the VADA testing if he wants to, and he's working with you, a guy who somehow goes from 135 pounds on the weigh-in night to weighing 165 pounds on fight night, or 163, whatever the number. You don't find that suspicious that you're able to do that with this known cheater in your corner? No, I don't pay attention to that.
There's weird stuff going on for sure. I mean, you saw Shakur Stevenson the other day. He somehow magically made the weight easier than he did the previous fight. When he was going to fight Kid Austin, right? He came in looking like a little more like the Crypt Keeper than usual. And then when he fought right before Zepeda, if you look at him, he didn't look sucked in at all. He looked like completely just fine. And he made it easy. It was weird. And then he goes the very next day, he's standing next to Conor Benn, and he's enormous again. He's this giant guy, and he's like, he looks like he's bigger than Conor Benn. So I'm like, this is insane. This guy got to be taking
you know what I think it is? I think it's because he has so many fighters he's helping that he can't help them all at the same time for like the camps coming up. That's why Caleb lost against Resendiz. He wasn't on that next shit.
I mean, that's a good point. But
Caleb wasn't on that snack shit when he fought Resendiz, but he was on the snack shit when he fought Benavidez.
Oh, I think he was on it, man. I think he looks like it.
No, because when he came in, he didn't look defined. He didn't look good.
Did you see what Resendiz said after he beat the crap out of Plant?
What?
He did, like, remember the Suck It, the DX of the pro wrestling? He said Resendiz nuts.
Nah, he didn't say, he didn't say that. What the fuck?
I know, I made that up.
What did you say?
I heard he said the N-word.
Nah, come on.
Oh, yeah,
the
Caleb Plant was very proud of that moment. That was the proudest moment of his life.
Yeah.
What did you say Trevor McCombie's nickname was the other day?
The cum. That's what he called the cum.
That's not,
you know, these guys the commentators are afraid of that. You know what they were calling McCrumbie. What is he, crime dog? No, his name is McCumbie. Interesting. Learn
Very
it.
interesting.
Know it. He's the cum, man. He's the cum. I'm telling you, if I was his marketing guy, I'd be like, bro, you need to put out some fucking t-shirts that say the cum. It's like a splatter in the shirt and then glasses on that, on the splatter. Because he was going around wearing the glasses.
Wait, what?
And maybe like it's like a splatter and a beard on the splatter and like glass.
Julio, it should just say you just got McCumbie and it's like a cream pie.
Exactly. Yeah. You just got. I'm not gonna go into it. But that guy got some marketability. I'm telling you.
I'm gonna
McCumbie big.
I'm going to McCumbie all over your face. That's what you should say.
I'm going to McCumbie all over that ring. all over that ring. That's my ring. Everything's gonna be covered in my Macumbi.
All right, but I gotta ask Vessel.
And then you know Max Kellerman's gonna get a kick out of that, right?
Oh yeah. He wants some of Andrew Ward's Macumbiness, if you know what I mean.
Exactly.
Vessel, you sent me the showbiz thing there where this person's alleging that Bill Haney said they can circumvent. What's the timestamp though? Where do I go?
The timestamp, it starts at 1:02.
1 hour and 2 seconds. 2 seconds.
1 hour and 2 minutes.
1 hour and 2 minutes. Okay, my bad.
Yeah. And it goes from there. He says something that's very, very interesting. I'm gonna just say it and see if you pay attention when he says it. He says it's very easy to beat the thing. You just have to cycle off of it. Everybody knows.
Whoa.
That.
Okay.
Let's
listen to it.
Well, Haney says.
Yeah, let's listen to it and then we'll comment. So this is
Okay,
and by the way, this is Food TV's favorite YouTuber. This is Showbiz. So let's listen to what the
yeah, definitely. Oh, those eyeballs! I just love those.
Come on, stop it. Let's see what Bill Haney had to say to all Showbiz.
He looks like he was lobotomized.
Come on.
Fool, man, what picture is that?
And then he
knows he looks fucking insane. Lobotomized Showbiz.
Fool, man, you're fucking
how
man.
He got lazy? He took a look. You know his eyes are always bulging, right? So how you got a fucking picture you with lazy eyes, with two lazy eyes? Anyway,
wait, he has money. Why doesn't he get that fixed?
You can't, man. You know how dangerous that surgery is? That's called the orbital decompression.
No, it's easier now.
Extremely dangerous.
How does Fu know all about this? How do you know all about this?
I'm trying to because look, I was doing research into getting that surgery done on myself to make my
because you get now I get it. You have Showbiz eyes. That's why you keep bringing up his eyes because you have them too.
I don't. I'm saying I want Showbiz eyes, so I want the opposite of the decompression.
You think that's gonna help you with your views? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm gonna get on there like,
you're gonna start interviewing fighters.
I'm gonna be like, Peter Tuesdays.
Come on,
yo, he sold that. How the fuck is he gonna talk about tacos? He's not even Mexican. What the fuck?
I mean, why not?
That's cultural appropriation. That's called.
Why not?
He should be talking about. He should say like a fried chicken Tuesdays, right? Fried chicken, you know.
Come on, fool. You know what? I'm going to stop letting you talk, man, because I don't know what you're saying. You're saying a bunch of nonsense here.
I call it EBT Wednesdays.
I'm just saying culturally, right? A lot of black people, a lot of them in the States, they come from like the South, right? And fried chicken's real big.
I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true. I know a lot of them are living in the northern urban centers. So I don't know. Anyway, listen. I don't even know what you're bringing up. You're ruining the show.
I thought Showbiz was Southern.
You're ruining my party. That's what you're doing. Let's listen to... All right, let's listen to see. Well, let's finally get to the bottom of this.
Dude, what I'm saying, BD, is you need to take back Taco Tuesdays, man. You got to wear that taco hat.
I don't want Taco Tuesdays. I want Taco Fridays.
Oh, Fridays.
That's Taco Day.
Whatever.
All right, whatever. Listen, that makes no sense.
Why Tuesday?
Let's listen to what Bill Haney had to tell Showbiz about VADA testing.
364, you could have said, just did a 180 and came on back real quick. Snack, listen, bro.
What's that thing on the right?
There's nothing in snack. There's nothing to snack. But I'm going to tell you one thing, unless there is. Listen, with me, I'm telling you, right now, Biz, the kids can come talk to me and they can find out how not to get in the streets, how not to sell drugs, how not to do. And I'm the man to come talk to. I might not know everything that you want to do in life, but I know what you shouldn't be doing.
But how about Victor Conte's past? Is that what you're saying? You're saying that with his past, he knows now how to do things in a natural and healthy way?
He knows how to bust people that are using drugs. And Margaret and VADA know that they know how to do it. People that...
But why does Conte... First of all, that whole thing about how going to the streets and then avoid... Is that what you were referring to, Vessel?
No. There's still more. This gets way better as it goes on. This is like a 5-minute clip. This is
but already it's very suspect what he's saying about Victor Conte, because Conte keeps saying, I have no association with VADA. Then years ago he says, I helped him set up the protocol. He knows how to bust people, like he busted Ryan? Question mark? Yeah, because Conte said that when I played the quote from a couple of when we started the show, and I'm going to replay it because I understand people might not have heard it. He says, Conte said, I know how to circumvent it, it can be circumvented. The thing is, people like me who know how to circumvent it are also the guys catching them. But he doesn't work for VADA. He said that numerous times. So how's he catching them? That's that thing that makes no sense. But anyway, let's keep watching this.
Study the shit, right? Because I didn't know about Ostarine, bro. I got blindsided by it. You know, and you know what was crazy is, because I think that I knew about, you know, all the drugs and all the shit. Man, when the Ostarine came out, everybody said, oh, you didn't know? There's a lot of people doing Ostarine. I was like, fucking no.
First of all, a lot of people doing Ostarine. For what? Not for building muscle.
That's just weird. Yeah, Ostrine's a common contaminant. They said this many years ago. USADA warned people about it.
And by the way,
So
is
it's
Bill
just
Haney
weird
in
that,
is he in an elevator or something? What is it?
I think that's the psych ward. He's like, I'm back in the psych ward. He's like, hey Bill, you in rehab? Taco Tuesday.
If they pan the camera, if they pan the camera down, you see he's got a straitjacket on. Let me out of here.
Yes. He's tied up to a chair. He got wrist constraints. He looks just like his son there. It's fucking insane. You saw it?
Bearded son, yeah.
Dudes look almost identical when he was right there.
I don't know nothing about nobody's doing Ostarine. But they told me that it's like more common than not, you know?
Yeah, but
My
my
son
thing
only
is,
uses it
there's a
on
flip side
Thursdays.
to that coin, Bill. What if he knows how to pass the test that he's involved with? Like if you don't like people,
He should have just let him answer. But now he's interrupting me. Now he's giving Bill Haney more time to come up with an answer for that.
Bro, Bill Haney's a fucking liar. How does he not know about Ostarine? I competed in college soccer and I knew about Ostarine.
I don't know what
People were taking it at that level.
I don't know what crack cocaine is. I've never heard about it
Years
before.
ago, bro.
Yeah.
if
That was his defense when they caught him selling drugs. I don't know what drugs are. I thought drugs meant medicine.
Yeah. They said it was crack. I thought it was candy. I thought I was selling candy. That's why I sold it to some of the kids.
like people talking,
everyone knows
if you don't
that
like
everyone
people
knows how to
talking
do it.
badly about Devin, why be associated with a person
Right.
with?
Do you notice he starts moving that? Look at it. Sorry to keep pausing, but look at how when he starts getting pressed on Conte, now he starts moving. Before he was sitting still. Now he starts moving. Look.
badly about Devin, why be associated with a person
Right.
with that kind of character?
Okay, so the thing is anyone knows how to beat it, right? Everyone knows how to beat the thing is that you need time to cycle off.
McGee.
No, okay, because he didn't have time to cycle off, Biz. You know what I'm saying? You
he
go
knows
on a
all
cycle,
about it, huh?
You go on a cycle and then you get off of it, the window of it, you still have the gains from it, my guy. But if you're getting tested 365, 24/7, then you don't have the opportune window to comfortably do a cycle without worrying about.
Unless you have a guy on the inside, right? Unless you have a guy on the inside. Which, by the way, this whole 360 day, is that even real? Because how do we know that's even real? That, like, let's say Victor Conte says, hey, let's do 265 days.
Yeah.
What if you know, because they're not going to test you every week. I think who said that? Who was the one that's
365 days? I think it's basically, it's just random testing, but it's all year round. They
yeah,
can
but how
come
many
any
times
day.
per year? Because I think even Victor Conte said, or somebody
Not
had
sure.
said that when they say year-round testing, but if it's only 12 times, or let's say it's 6 times per, across the year,
Yes.
what if you already know? Well, it's random, but what if you have an inside scoop on when that random thing is? Now I know that's going far. I know that's people conspiracies. But if you've got a mastermind, a self-professed mastermind like Conte, who is always boasting about how he can beat the system, and then one day he says he's not associated with VADA, then the next he says he is, then the next he says I can catch these guys. Well, how the fuck are you catching them if your company works with fighters? You don't work with the opponents and looking at their blood work. So how do you know? It's just the whole thing. It makes no sense. The contradictions, and then he says I can beat the system. So why are we supposed to? So in other words, Bill Haney's saying, yeah, Victor Conte anybody can circumvent it, but the defense is just trust us, bro. Conte's not cheating. We're doing 365 days.
At the head of that, the best way to do it would be to have undetectable PEDs, because all these other guys, what they're dealing with is the how long this lasts in your system, because it's detectable. But if you have a certain window there where it can come out of your system, right? The thing is like I said earlier, if you have a PD that's the designer made and they just have no test to even detect it, you don't have to deal with any of this shit. That's the thing. That's
And
what he's
didn't-
doing. He's like, oh, well, the guy got this, you know. He got
There's
that
a
little
guy-
bit in his system because they could detect it.
There's a guy that he gets a lot of flack because I think he got into it with Greek Glacier. I forget, it was manager Marty, but he was the one that had said he'd interviewed Conte too, and I think, oh man, you know what? I shouldn't even speak on this because I don't know the details, but they were explaining how technically 365-day a year round testing isn't really even a thing. But I got to look into it. I don't know about it, so I just got to. But anyway, but I am again. When you got a guy like Conte who's cheating the system, who cheated the system once, boasted about it, said it made him feel special, then he comes to the red light district of boxing where he says that testing is a joke. He aligns himself with VADA, and then there's all these contradictory stories and versions of, well, I helped them, but it was only through a phone call and a meeting. Then he goes, I helped set up the protocol. Then he says, I can catch these people. How are you catching them unless you're working for one of these associations? What, you go? Is he moonlighting?
He's the Dr. He's the Lecter, Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah, he's moonlighting as a nutritionist by day, and then at night he goes hunting for these PD guys. I mean, it makes no sense. He's not giving us a full story here.
Dr. Conte, what do we do?
Point. You know how he said Memo already has the undetectable ones?
Right.
And he knows which ones they are?
Mm-hmm.
So he's saying that Conte's not using the undetectable ones either to circumvent the 37 or whatever.
Well, he's smart. He's not accusing him of anything directly, but he's saying, watch out for Memo Heredia. Testing can be beat.
And then he lists PEDs that are undetectable. Like he knows which there is. There is some that are undetectable.
So these guys, what they keep talking about is cycling off. You don't need to cycle off if these drugs are undetectable. You don't need to cycle off. You've already beat the test without even trying. That's what I mean.
Well, Vessel
these other
was
guys that
telling
they're
us,
trying to catch got the old technology, you know.
Vessel was telling us about this Russian guy who was involved with PDs, and then he had a guy on the inside, so that even when it was 365-day year-round testing, they had a guy on the inside that swapped the samples. So there is a precedent that it can be done. Was that?
Yeah, he swapped the urine samples. It was a single person.
Right, so it can be done. And by the way, there was another documentary. I don't think it was the Icarus one that you mentioned, Vessel, or may have been. I don't know, I forget. But they were talking about PEDs. And then they were talking with the guy who won the gold medal at the 88 Olympics, Carl Lewis. Ben Johnson beat him in the Olympics, and then he tested hot. But Carl Lewis was seen as the victim in all that, right? And Ben Johnson, the evil cheater. But Carl Lewis had tested positive in the build-up to those Olympics. And they gave him a, what do they call it, a exemption? What do they call it?
Therapeutic exemption.
Oh, no. They fair use or whatever. That there was. Oh, they said it was because of a tea that he took. I think, what fucking teas are these people drinking it was detected in the... So you can see how, again, when people go, well, how come these guys, like, oh, the Heredia camp or the Reynoso camp, why aren't you focusing on them? First of all, we're not talking about them now because we already talked about them before and they already got caught. So what do you want us to just harp on how did they get caught and all that? No, we're talking about the guys that could be doing something and that there's people out there that are too naive to look at this and go, there's something highly suspicious about this. And that's the same thing with Victor Conte. Look what he says. He says,
I would like to point out that the Munguia fight and the other fight with what's his name? The other Memo Heredia. What's his name? The Mexican guy who beat the British Indian guy.
The Mexican guy who beat Chihuahua Rodriguez.
Yeah. Anyway, he wasn't even associated with Rena, so he only did a 2-week camp prior to the fight.
Right.
With him. Anyway, both of those guys have their wins have not been overturned. Why? Because they're actually proving themselves to be up and up.
Mm-hmm.
Are they part of the 7 fighters?
Yeah, they say those are 2 of the 7 fighters, but then
6 million.
what's his name? Munguia just went in there and he's proving himself to be in the up and up. We're gonna see the final results of it, but I think he is gonna be cleared. I think the other guy's probably gonna be cleared too.
You know that narrative. I told you why that's happening, and that there was a YouTube channel that put out a video, and he let the thing slip. It's all about Crawford's reputation after the massive, the embarrassing loss he's going to take in another couple of weeks.
Retroactive.
You got to build that narrative.
Retroactive exemption. Shout out to Steph K, aka Official Scorecard. Yeah, thank you. That's what I was referring to.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, which doesn't go for everybody because usually they say, right, if you get caught with something, it doesn't matter how. It's just if you got caught with it, you got to suffer a certain consequence. But with Carl Lewis, he was the darling of the track and field team, American hero. They weren't going to do that to him. But they did it to my fellow Canuck, Ben Johnson, my fellow Canuck.
Well, yeah, actually, you know,
6
that's a
million.
good point, Mr. Reedy. Because in that same documentary, you talk about how the Russians, they were already villainized to begin with, but there was other teams like the South Korean teams and the Swedish teams that were clearly on the same thing, right? But they were saying, well, look at the Swedish team. They're so nice. They're so cool people. Like, you know.
Yeah, sure. And you know what? Propaganda. That's how it was. Remember the 1980s, the Cold War. The Cold War was still ongoing. Reagan was really pushing it, and what did they do with Rocky IV? Oh, hey, Drago's juicing. But Rocky, he's all natural. He's training in the woods. He's training in a cabin. He beat the juice up because America is all about purity. There's no drug dealers in the United States. There's no corruption in the United States. It's all on the up and up. Don't look here, look over there. Look at China. Human rights violations all over the place. They got Muslims in concentration camps. And then you look into it, and it's like complete and total horseshit. So, listen, what we got here is a failure to communicate. And I think boxing fans, listen again, want to reiterate, I'm not accusing Victor Conte, hey, innocent until proven guilty. But what I'm saying is he's a liability that should not be in the sport. Do we gain more by keeping him in the sport or by kicking him out? It's a risk. It's like that argument. What do you gain more? Do you gain more by being religious or by being an atheist? And then all of a sudden, whoops, you find out there is a God and too late. You're going to hell, buddy. Pascal's wager. I think that's what it was. Pascal's wager. Anyway, the point is this.
Yeah, it's called Pascal's wager.
There you go. Which I don't like the name, by the way, because I hate wagers. But my thing is this. You know me. I'm the true path to the Crimson Cross. No gambling. No gambling, no red meat, no rock and roll music. What was the other thing in Escape from New York?
No rhino pills.
Yeah.
You could take rhino pills if you like.
You know what? Those fucking... So rhino pills, essentially, those are meth, right?
I have no idea.
Is that meth, essentially, Vessel, or what is that?
I thought it was Flocka.
Oh, no, get the fucking... No, they would not be selling Flack. Oh, man. Yeah. Well, anyway, so sorry. So this interview there with Bill Haney, is there more left that you want to play, or...
After that clip, this is only like a minute, I think, left of it. You should probably
Somebody
watch.
coming in and testing you. You know what I mean? So that's why Devin took the miss.
I support that. I support that.
Yeah, that's what I saw. That's what Devin did. So Devin joined the 365 and just said that, whoever it is, if you believe in it like he does, then come on and join the 365 and just let them just random test us.
I understand that, but maybe the criticism is he's willing to do that when you're in support with a person who is in with VADA and is known as one of the dirtiest cheats in sports history.
Yeah, but you still can't do that. You still need the window to cycle. See, listen, like with fighters, planning out the fight.
Why does he know so much about this shit? You know that? Notice that? Where did you go research this? Oh, how are we gonna cheat? Oh, you got to do that. All right.
It's all
like
Conte
he knows all about how to do this.
It's all Conte that told him all this.
And we both.
Oh, maybe, yeah. But he's letting the shit out the bag. That's like Floyd and his dad and all that.
Well,
dude, these guys could barely string together 5 words.
Well, let's see
what
what
they're
he
over
has to
here and
say.
they know everything about steroids.
Let's see what he has to
found that
say.
suspect.
That the cycle doesn't benefit any fighter or anything. It's just a matter of the window. Having the fight, having them start the testing, and it's tested out far enough, and you're tested the day before the fight, and you're tested after. That's just testing. That's testing protocol.
So you guys going to stay? I mean, like I said, I'm never going to try to get in between a man and his food, brother. That's why I didn't even want to bring up the snack thing. Not that you guys are cheating or not. All right. You never been busted. So that means you never cheated. My whole thing is I didn't want to bring it up because that's a sponsorship. That's a bag. All right.
Did you hear what Showbiz just said there?
No.
Yeah, wait. Wait, BDA, have you ever seen me goon?
No.
Oh my God.
Okay. Does that mean I have never gooned before?
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Did you guys hear what Showbiz just said? He says, I don't want to get between a man and his bread.
Busted, so
No. He straight up said it's okay to cheat. That's what he said. And I want to get in the way,
Well, that's your that's your perception. What he's trying, the way I interpret, he's saying, I don't want to get in between you and who you associate with.
In the sponsorship.
And your bread, you and your bread.
Right.
Yeah, because it's a sponsorship. Snack is a sponsorship.
I don't know, man. The guy's a fighter. He's making a lot more from boxing than he is Victor Conte. Right?
So
He
that
needs
means
money
you
that
never
bad. He's
cheated.
that hard up. You got associated with
My
a
whole
drug
thing
cheat.
is, I didn't want to bring it up because that's a sponsorship. That's a bag. All right, I ain't got
That's a
that
bag,
kind of
all right.
time to. The war room was like it would be disingenuous for me not to bring it up. But really, bro,
If you
you know what I
don't
mean?
bring up everything
It's
in the
genuine.
war room, you are the one that's out of pocket. I didn't come over here.
All right, now they're just speaking,
Well, yeah,
frivolities.
at this point, the clip's
War
over.
room. What the fuck is a war
But
room?
just let me say this real quick. That to Vessel's point about have you ever seen me goon? The answer is no, and I hope it never happens. That's number one. But his argument, the point he's trying to make is just because you haven't seen me doesn't mean I'm doing it. Now, obviously, in the court of law, you have to prove that the guy is doing it. However, I just want to remind people of what Victor Conte said in the documentary, that how he had all these athletes, especially ones in the Olympics, who were tested regularly, and they never failed the test. So obviously, just because you haven't failed the test doesn't mean that in the real objective world you are not cheating. Check this out. Here's another quote from Conte. Marion Jones passed 160 drug tests. Lance Armstrong passed 250. Both later admitted to using drugs, meaning they were never caught. It was only years later that it all came out. So yeah, this whole thing of, well, he's never tested, caught, so how do we know he's cheating? Well, that's a problem. That's my thing. We don't know if Conte is giving them shit or not. We don't know if things are gonna. So what I'm saying is, instead of, I'm not saying they're guilty. What I'm saying is, get rid of Conte, and make it so that he can no longer associate with boxers. Because again, as long as he's around, that's a big asterisk. And as long as he's associated with boxing, people like us and other podcasters and other people are never gonna stop bringing up his name and asking questions.
Yeah, I'm never going to stop gooning. So yeah.
Especially when you're pointing fingers, right, at other people for doing stuff.
Yeah,
exactly. And recognize,
like how is this guy gonna call other people cheaters when that's his whole thing. His whole thing was to, like you said, one of his clients passed, what was it, 160 drug testers?
Well, this is more up your alley. No, actually, no, sorry, excuse me. I thought it was a baseball guy. But anyway, Marion Jones passed 160 drug tests. Lance Armstrong passed 250.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this.
Barry Bonds, I don't think Barry Bonds ever failed a test either. I don't know how many tests he took.
Let me ask you this.
Wait, he didn't fail a test, but he had 2 negative tests where it was like false positive.
Well, there you go. But recognize. Let me ask you this.
Recognize that was over like 7 years of testing. So you do the math on that, bro.
False positive.
Recognize. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Victor Conte.
Yeah.
Helped all these people cheat. They never failed a test. He goes into boxing, which only does urine tests. He comes in. He gets together with VADA. As much as he wants to say he's not associated with them and that VADA as well, they say, no, he's not. He doesn't work for us. He said in the build-up to Andrade versus Benavides, when he was working with Andrade, he said, I helped VADA set up their protocol. So now you got a known cheater who can manufacture masked PEDs, who knows the system that he says is the only game in town when it comes to testing. USADA doesn't do boxing testing anymore, WADA, none of this. So he's got the monopoly on VADA. He knows the protocol. He knows how to mask PEDs. And then, check this out. But you're supposed to trust him, recognize, because he says, I'm not about that life anymore. I learned my ways, right? That's what he says. But then check out what he had to say when Memo Heredia, his arch enemy in the world of PEDs, started working with Benavides, who was going to fight Conte's guy, which was Caleb Plant. Okay, so hold on a second. This stuff is giving me give me 2 seconds here.
Ajita?
I read someone in the comments says that Devin Haney snorts his PEDs. That's fucking hilarious.
Come on.
I think that's why his nose grew.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
I think who's on to something.
All right, so recognize. Here's what he had to say about. So he's talking. Here's what he had to say about Memo Heredia. Okay, he says, time for boxing to get woke. Even the most stringent VADA testing can be circumvented by smart cheaters. Beware Memo Heredia, who is in camp with Benavides, who will be fighting my guy, Sweet Hands Plant, on March 25th. So he's saying, hey, beware Memo Heredia. So by that logic, why shouldn't we beware of Victor Conte?
Right. That's just all projection, right? Now, Memo probably does give whoever he works with stuff that they can take, and you're not going to pop dirty. But so do you. That is your whole thing. That is why you had one client pass 160 tests. 160.
I mean, think about that.
I would
number.
say you are fucking you if that is true, and that client was working with you the whole time. They took 160 tests. Then, my friend, you are automatic. You are you are a guarantee. I'm getting away with it.
That's what and that's the thing. And then, I mean, he's still with the sport, and his only defense is, well, I don't do it anymore, and now I'm working with VADA, so I can't be cheating. But then in other interviews, he goes, I got nothing to do with VADA. Which one is it? Oh, and then I don't know if you saw this recognized, but they asked him about the testing. He goes, the people that know how to circumvent the testing, like I can, are also the ones that are catching the people who can circumvent it. And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. He says he doesn't work with VADA. He's a guy working with fighters directly. So how the hell is he catching people unless he's working and looking at his opposition's stats as it pertains to blood samples and urine testing and all that?
Right. You see, I don't know the science to that, but it seems like he can read a test and say, get out of here.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? Like something shows up. In other words, the guy passed or the girl passed sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he can be like, nah, do this test. And I guarantee you're going to find something. Why? Because he knows how to get, he knows the science to that, right? Whether he's in the meth lab, he's in the medical lab doing it, or somebody taught him, right? Somebody taught him how to read these tests properly, right? So I'll give you an example, right? Let's say I do a test on Julio, and Julio is a athlete. He should be average. His testosterone level should be a little bit above average to this point, right? Now, let's say he goes past that. He goes past that, and instead of calling it a failed test, what I would do is say, something to the effect of, well, he's a great athlete, so his testosterone could go past that, right? And it might be true. It might be true in certain cases. But it all depends on who's going to determine that. So let's say VADA says, well, no, anything over this threshold is considered a failed test. But again, does that mean that I didn't take something?
How would you know?
No, it doesn't. Yeah. It doesn't guarantee that I didn't take something.
And as the
because
athlete,
you're setting the threshold.
Yes.
And as the athlete, how would you know? I mean, it's just there's no reason why this guy should be allowed to be working with athletes. And here's another quote of him casting aspersions on Memo Heredia. He goes, Memo operates in the shadows. No facility, no supplement line. Ask him to open that little black bag he carries around with him. Anybody who has worked with Memo knows about his shady activities. Well, first of all, this dude worked with Memo, and he's got a lot of gold talking about another guy's shady activities when this guy is the king of cheating. And actually, not only that, but he boasts about having cheated. Taking candy from a baby. That's what he said. It's like taking candy from a baby. So, yeah, that's not shady at all.
Yeah, he's very braggadocious about, the PEDs that he can give a fighter, an athlete, and get away with it. So why would I trust a guy who's that, braggadocious about it to be like, nah, I decide not to do that. I'm not gonna break the rules, even though I broke the rules before, and I want you guys to continue to work with me. So of course I'm gonna give you the best stuff. Now, when it comes to people like Devin Haney, what they're doing is, I would bet that when it comes to somebody like Victor Conte tells them, listen, trust me. Let's not talk about what I'm going to give your son. Just guarantee that your son's going to be fine.
Exactly.
That's it.
Plausible
okay?
deniability.
And plausible
I gave
deniability.
you my son. I gave you his buns.
Right. Right.
Exactly.
Okay. And you know, in other words, we don't have to have any further conversations. You know who I am. This is why you come to me.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what it is. That's probably how the deal works out. Exactly. And by the way, his only defense is, well, I advocate for VADA testing, which is very stringent. So that's his only defense. But then in another interview and in another tweet, he'll go, VADA testing can be circumvented. So which one is it? Why are you advocating so much for this? And then that's the other thing. Somebody told him, what's the point of testing then? And he goes, well, it reduces the amount of the dosage of a PED that these people can take. So he knows that, hey, how do we know he's not giving a certain dosage to his guys? Again, there's no reason to trust this guy. He has not given us reason to trust him. He broke the law with this, the bond of athletes, clean athletes, and now he expects us to just believe him. I'm sorry, that's not how it works. We're all, he did his time. That means he's not guilty right now, but he will always be suspicious, especially with the way in which he carries himself in.
I mean, he did his time, but he still is guilty, right?
Exactly. That's what I'm
saying.
saying.
He did the crime.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That makes him even more guilty, right?
He did the crime. That's why he did the time,
yeah. So that's like anything you say, if you're somebody like Devin Haney and you're pointing the finger at Ryan Garcia, that finger automatically goes right back to you.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what Vessel said earlier too, recognize, which is, what's worse, Memo Heredia operating with his own fighters and doing the VADA testing, or Victor Conte not only still working with fighters, but him being associated with VADA?
Right. Why would he be associated? First of all, him being associated with VADA, like, there should be a conflict of interest there. This guy knows how to beat a test. He knows how to.
I'm telling you, recognize. It's like the Icarus podcast. The documentary. Rakhmonov was associated with the setting up the test themselves. That's why he knew how to circumvent the test. So
yes,
and it literally all comes down to who has the better masking agent.
There you
That's
go.
it.
That's why it's called.
Because everybody knows what you take already. Everybody takes the same shit. It's just who has a better masking agent.
There you go. That's the way it seems like to me as well. It's chemical warfare. That's what they're going in. And like I said earlier, a lot of these fighters, they don't have the most developed sense of long-term thinking. They can't anticipate certain things. They're living in the moment. That's why they're professional boxers, because they got to be a little crazy to do it. But they're not thinking ahead that, look at Marion Jones and all these other athletes that have had their name besmirched and sullied because, they didn't test positive during their careers, but it all came out afterwards. So all these guys on the snack right now, you got Crawford, Haney, Bam, Virgil Ortiz, Andrade if he comes back. I don't know if Shakur Stevenson's with them too. All these other guys, just enjoy your career now, because you never know. If Conte gets caught again and he starts spilling the beans just like he did the first time, he's taking you down with him.
Yes, he will. He's a rat. And you guys, did you talk about how Shane Mosley Jr. works with Conte? You guys all find that suspicious. That's one of the most suspicious things.
Like
right.
father like son,
Conte ratted him out, and he got his son working with that guy.
Yeah, that's fun.
So Sugar Shane Mosley, who worked with Victor Conte and knows what he's about, and I'm sure his son does. His son is working with that same guy.
Like his son would know. His daddy knows all about it. So he had his son working with him. That tells you that he's doing something over there.
Yeah. So why wouldn't I assume that he's going over there to get the same stuff that something similar to what happened with his father?
Yes, exactly. That's why I thought that was weird, because I was looking at the list of athletes in Snack and I saw Shane Mosley Jr. and I was like, wow, that's really suspect.
At the end of the day,
like, nothing's gonna change. Nothing's gonna change the fact that that Devin Haney got his ass whipped by Ryan Garcia. Like
That's
everybody
right, yeah.
saw it.
Everybody saw
You
it.
know?
Everybody saw him get dropped, hurt multiple times, shit his pants. It is what it is.
I saw the shit. That was a wet shit, man. That's wet shit.
Yeah, that was yeah. And listen,
If he
Austrian,
kept it
shitty,
solid, you know, it would have never oozed through.
Austrian, a shitty PED. Oh, that's the other thing. People keep saying, well, I mean, that's why he got suspended. Technically, Ryan Garcia got suspended because he failed to disclose the supplements he was taking.
Yeah, exactly. This is what I tell people all the time, and they still, because it's a narrative, right? They still say oh, he failed the PD test. It's like, no, you fucking idiot. They cleared him of that. It's that he didn't disclose, and that was by purpose. That was them looking for a loophole. He didn't disclose to VADA, to the New York State Athletic Commission that these are the supplements that he took to rehydrate. Now he gave the same stuff that he didn't report to the New York State Athletic Commission. He gave that to VADA. Why wouldn't VADA just say, "Hey, New York State Athletic Commission, this is what Ryan Garcia took"?
Exactly. And that's the other thing, though. It's in that documentary, Exodus Files, the second part that they released weeks ago. They have a part there where Conte is talking about the amount of Austrian found in Garcia's system. But then VADA says, and I tried looking for it. I said, do they release the amount? And then Bill Haney was on the Boxing Voice, and they asked him, because he said VADA doesn't release the numbers. But then they asked him, well, how come Victor Conte knows them? And he just started, I don't want to talk about, he completely deflected. Somebody in the chat then later on was telling me, weeks ago, was like, no, it's the lawyer told him. But and then he sent me a tweet that didn't even say what he was saying. It didn't even prove that the lawyer said. So I don't, how did he know the numbers? Does that come out afterwards? Or that's another unanswered question. Bill Haney didn't want to answer it. So is Victor Conte getting inside information from VADA? Why is that impossible? Again, I'm not saying that's the case, but when people go, nah, that's a conspiracy theory. Just because you call something a conspiracy, like again, the whole BALCO thing was a conspiracy, and it happened. Just if you would have labeled it at the time a conspiracy theory, guess what? It doesn't deflect from the fact that it happened and that there was something suspicious going on. So just saying, Victor Conte, he can't be doing it. Why not? Isn't it safe enough to just say, you know what, just don't let him associate with boxers? Why not just say that? And play on the side of caution. Now, instead, you got to prove to me that this guy who knows how to create mass PEDs and whose stories keep changing about his association with VADA, just like that guy, nothing shady about him. The guy who continually boasted about how he beat the system multiple times. Yeah, nothing shady about him. Nothing shady.
And another thing, right? Like this is something that I remember too. When Ryan Garcia was preparing for the fight with Devin Haney, he worked with this guy named Scooter, right? Scooter something, whatever the fuck. I know it's like they call him Scooter.
Mm-hmm.
That guy was on a stream, and he basically laid out everything that he gave Ryan Garcia, and he said that he reported it to VADA.
Uh-huh.
So that you understand, like the everything checks out. Everything checks out exactly to if Ryan Garcia is being penalized for not disclosing what he gave to the New York to what he took from the New York State Athletic Commission. The guy he was working with gave it in an interview. He gave exactly what he was giving them, and he named what he was giving them and where they found the Osterring, right? To VADA. Now, why wouldn't VADA? Maybe VADA did. Excuse me. Maybe VADA said, "Yeah, this is what Ryan Garcia took," and then the New York State Athletic Commission said, but he didn't report that to us.
Right, and that's the thing, though, because this Dan Raphael article claims that Garcia's legal team issued a joint statement after the B samples came back positive, and once again, Garcia had not knowingly taken a bad substance, and that he had submitted to her testing, which came back negative. So when people go, well, how come he still got suspended? Because he was in his system. They're gonna do something to him either way. So again, this whole thing, people
The
just
same thing
repeat
happened with Canelo, right?
Right.
Canelo took a hair follicle test, and when it came back, it was clean. They made a determination from there that he wasn't intentionally taking that shit that they put in the meat in Mexico. Now that
And
doesn't
then-
mean that Canelo is clean in the terms of like he doesn't take illegal PEDs. Maybe I'm pretty sure he does, right? But the point is that what he got caught with, they were able to prove that it wasn't intentional. The same thing with Ryan Garcia. It's the same fucking thing.
And then the other thing is, because we're offering evidence to suggest something nefarious is going on, and then you get to Haney's half-breed brother, that his half-breed brother who said, "I got a vision from Allah telling me Garcia is going to test positive," and sure enough, a couple of days later, he tests positive. I mean, come on,
Right? And nobody and these hypocrites try to act like they don't find nothing weird about that.
Right. I mean,
And
if
it's like,
I'm
someone
gonna add something here.
Who you trying to convince? Who you trying to convince?
I'm
Yourself or me?
almost positive that Conte snitched on Ryan, and he's like, try out this masking agent, test for this one.
wait, repeat
Almost
that?
positive on that. That
I
Conte's
wouldn't
like, hey, try out this, because you said it's the New York commission, the one that caught him, right? It wasn't VADA.
Right. Oh no,
Yeah,
wait, it was.
yeah,
VADA.
it was the.
It wasn't VADA. It wasn't VADA. Is that what you said? Recognize?
No, it was the state. It was the New York State Athletic Commission that ended up suspending him because he did not disclose.
Oh, right. Yeah,
to
well,
them.
VADA, yeah, that's the thing. VADA can't do anything. They can't suspend. They can't make decisions. They leave it up to. They just give the results to all parties involved.
But if you remember, okay, it's called Mill City. My brother just texted me it. Mill City has a like a podcast, a boxing podcast.
Uh-huh.
I think it's Zab Judah. And this guy named Scooter is on there telling them what he gave Ryan Garcia. And it was the same shit that that Ryan Garcia had there was tainted ostarine in one of those supplements. So he said he gave VADA everything. He disclosed to VADA everything that he gave Ryan Garcia. So I guess VADA went to the New York State Athletic Commission and said, look, this is what Ryan Garcia took. And they said, well, he didn't submit it to us. They got him on the technicality.
Yeah. So that's why Vessel is saying that he probably said Garcia. Well, I mean, listen, I don't know if that's what happened, but would I be surprised? Ryan Garcia's an asshole. He pisses everybody around him off. So yeah, maybe some people say, you know what, fuck this.
Isn't okay, recognize though. Doesn't this sound kind of like a setup to you, brother?
Of course it does. Of course. Now that's my.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying Conte
right?
probably went around talking too much and got him in trouble.
My theory is that this was sort of set up. So they knew that eventually Ryan Garcia was going to be able to prove that there was no intent in his ostarine. So okay, so we can't fail him for a PED test. What we can fail him for is not disclosing it to us. And then they suspended him for a year, and they called the fight a no contest. Listen, man, Devin Haney's a fraud. And that's that.
Well, look at all the games he's playing with Norman now. Oh, we got to do testing beyond 8 weeks now before the fight. We got to do this. We got to do. I'm telling you, watch now. They're probably gonna come out with glove issues, injuries, allegations of. Hey, don't be surprised if Norman pops hot before the fight. From here until November, don't be surprised. Conte probably works his magic or something.
If he doesn't, I'll be shocked.
Right. So everybody
I'll
would
be shocked
when that happens, I'm going to be saying, "Whoa, interesting." Everybody, well, two people in a row that Haney fights, they're all he never tests positive, no nothing. The guy who used to fight at 135 and would rehydrate up to 100 beyond 160 pounds on fight night. Yeah, nothing suspicious there. But it's everybody else. Oh, and his association with the known cheater. That's nothing to look at, but look over there. Look at these dudes.
That's why I'm worried about the Canelo fight, because I feel like if Canelo wins, they're gonna pop him hot for something and call the fight a no contest.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. A lot of people that hate Canelo, they probably would love that for him
Yeah.
to test positive. So,
Well,
yeah.
what I would say with Canelo, I don't think that would happen. What Canelo's got to make sure is that the fight's not too close. That's what he's got to make sure. They'll rob him. I'm pretty sure they will.
I mean, if the smaller
I
guy
could be
makes
wrong.
it, yeah, if the smaller guy makes it the distance against the guy he's supposed to knock out, I mean, the guys that are supposed to knock him out, then yeah, some judges might tend to feel generous. That's what
I'm
I
just
think.
saying.
can't-
Remember the
but in other
Cepeda
words,
fight? Cepeda won
Canelo
one round
can't-
according to the judges.
Right, Canelo cannot skim a decision, not like no 7-5 or a real competitive 8-4. Right, he can't afford that because then more than likely. And look, if it happens to Canelo, I mean, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I'm not here saying, oh, poor Canelo. No, Canelo's gotten the benefit of a doubt of close decisions. You know,
Mhm.
a lot of people thought he clearly lost to Golovkin in the first fight, and they gave it a draw. So, you know, I'm not going to sit here. He got a close win. I thought personally he beat Lara. You know what I'm saying? But that fight, I'm willing to admit the fight could have went either way. But in my opinion, yeah, I thought the right guy won. To me, that's them giving him the benefit of the doubt. Right? He's the biggest star. There's more upside to him.
He
Who
was on
was
the
it
that
forward
said-
foot. That's why he gets the benefit because he's on the forward foot. He's pushing the pace. He's
Somebody-
the most
Right, and that's why I thought he won too.
Yeah.
And
Somebody-
exactly what Julio said. In my opinion, there was no controversy there. You know, they had it, 9 rounds to 3, 10 rounds to 2. I'm like, bro, what the fuck? What fight did you guys see?
Somebody had said, I forget who it was, but it was after Canelo beat Charlo, and somebody said, hey, if they would have made that fight a draw, don't be surprised. I wouldn't have been surprised if there would have been people going on, yeah, that fight was a draw, yeah. Canelo was only throwing one punch at a time. I mean, just because you drop a guy doesn't mean you win the fight. You got and there's people that justify. I mean, there's people that justify Lomachenko versus Haney, that decision. Yeah, man. I mean,
Never mind that Charlo won 2 rounds at best, right? Never
well,
mind
you
that
never
he
know
won.
with people. You never know.
Yeah,
Man. But
I think that's being said.
He won that fight.
Right.
I'm sick of you liars.
all right, well, listen, I gotta go grab a bite to eat. But I'm glad you guys jumped in. I'm glad we got to the bottom of things. Again, what do you guys think? Leave it in the comments in the comment section. Should Victor Conte be allowed to be in the sport of boxing? Is he a liability, or did he do his time and now we got to give him the benefit of the doubt? Let us know in the comment section below. All right.
If you allow Victor Conte in the sport, then let's legalize PEDs.
Hey, get what's his name? Capetillo, the guy who allegedly put the plaster on Margarito's wraps. Another thing that
we
people
need
keep
some more of
repeating.
that.
Yeah,
We need
let him
Canelo
back.
needs to be able to wear those for Crawford.
Why not? Well, listen.
Exactly.
Shout out to Vessel, who was here from almost the beginning, I believe. Shout out to Real Food TV. Shout out to Recognize. Shout out to myself. No, I'm kidding. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Shout out to everybody who donated via the super chats. Shout out to everybody who joined us and listened.
Shout out to PDA, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, shout out to
Absolutely.
BDA. Also, talking about payment, you still owe me my bag of Cheetos for the podcast we're doing today.
What do you want? Hot Cheetos or the regular ones?
Puffs, please, like Bomac, my hero.
Exactly.
Yeah, that dude, he can finish off a whole bag of chips by himself, man. He doesn't even work out. If he was working out, I'd understand. Cheat day or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah,
gorge
man,
yourself on
that
food.
dude, that guy is pretty athletic. Just gotta say.
I was rewatching
He's
the
more
Canelo
athletic. I
conference.
just got the what?
I was rewatching the Canelo press conference because I'm doing a video on that, and he goes when the Canelo pushed him, and he goes, no, excuse me, there was a third press conference, the last one. He goes, it's they're facing off against each other, and he's like, it's on now, it's on now. It's on now. It's like what? It's on now. What? They're gonna fight now? And then when he sees Canelo's ignoring him, he starts to try to get Canelo's attention. He goes, Canelo, and then when he sees Canelo's ignoring him, he goes, where Eddie at? Where Eddie? Now he wants to get Eddie Reynoso's attention. I'm thinking this dude is as annoying as he looks, and I'm sick of him.
Yeah.
With the whole fruit basket
Hercules.
thing. Come on. All right. Well, listen, we
Canelo,
gotta
I'm gonna eat you, baby.
go. We gotta
I'm
go.
gonna eat you.
Shout out to everybody who joined us. Thank you for joining us. We'll try to be back as soon as possible. there's not much going on this Saturday. We got
What do
Xander
you mean? Xander Zayas fights. Dude.
Yeah, Xander Zayas fights against Jorge Perez.
Recognize his favorite fighter.
Was that?
He does love him a lot.
Recognize loves that guy, right? Recognize.
Nah, Berlanga's his guy. Berlanga.
That's my Puerto Rican hope right there.
Ah, come on.
Mm-hmm.
You could have gone with Matias, Shakur Stevenson.
Viva Puerto
Berlanga.
Rico! Viva Puerto Rico!
Oscar
braids aren't
Collazo.
cool enough.
Oscar Collazo. No, you got to go with Zayas. Come on.
He needs better braids. I don't think those are impressive.
Well, I mean, he is like a better representation, right? He's big. He's a pretty handsome kid.
Oh, come on. Wait a minute. What? He's big. He's handsome. What else?
Extremely attractive.
I don't like where this is going, Recognize. I don't like where you went with it.
Okay, it's a little gay. I didn't go full gay. Okay, I was a little gay.
Because I
Just
stopped
say
you.
he has nice hands, nice eyebrows. He smells good.
Whoa!
The fuck? Fu's losing it. That means we gotta go. When Fu starts losing it and screaming, that's when we know we gotta go.
Whoa!
Time for us to go.
Whoa! You're halfway gay.
How about we got Gons today too
Yeah,
as
the
well.
blind-
Gons, sorry man, I didn't see you there, man, but we do gotta go.
You know the
Hey,
you know the
have
song,
a
the
good
Blind
evening.
movie? You get the reference?
What's up, Gonzalo?
Have a good evening.
What's up, Gons?
Hi, Gonzalo.
That
Hey.
recording, Stubbers.
All right, we gotta
care.
go. I gotta go eat. I'm starving here. So
right,
shout out
bye.
to you, everybody
Have a
who's
good
in
one,
the chat, everybody in the